Good evening and welcome to the SME Plug Virtual Hangout by Advi 360 and Mishra. And today we have an interesting subject to discuss today in our monthly hangout for February. And it's about ease of doing business in Nigeria, the SME challenge. So this year, we've started with tax in January, and we understand what the tax regime is this year in Nigeria. And now we want to discuss ease of doing business and how to navigate the Nigerian business landscape. So before we jump into uh, introducing our speaker and what we have for tonight, we would introduce us. So if you are joining us for the first time, this is the SME Plug, um, a community where we support businesses, small businesses in Nigeria, led by our strategic partner, Advi 360, and co-pilots by Mishra, a human capital company. My name is Michael Eromosele. I represent Mishra, and we have on the background our representative from Advi, Jessica. And as you can see on the screen as well, we have our special guest who I will introduce again, like I said, shortly. So we're excited to have you on in this month's edition. So we have our guest. I'll just read a little profile about him and bring him, well, to the stage officially. So it's Dr. Bello Adewale, a distinguished management consultant and Scrum Master with a PhD in management and has over 12 years of experience driving projects across successful and diverse industries, I would say. So he has proven track record of managing multi-million dollar budgets and supervising over 2,000 field staff, notably leading critical data collection and yield estimation for the CBN anchored borrowers program, and is an expert in agile methodologies and the OKR framework. Our doctor here also specialize in breaking down complex systemic hurdles in actionable data-driven steps to help SMEs achieve operational excellence and sustainable growth in the Nigerian market. So, Dr. Adewale Bello, we are happy to have you on today's program. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Ramasala, for your introduction. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can, loud and clear. Thank you.
All right,
All right.
all right, great. So thanks again for having me today.
All right.
Of course, I'm also an SME owner, right? I also manage maybe maybe not an SME, maybe a micro business, SME club. It's a
No,
micro
no,
business
no.
organization.
So yes. We realize you have
So
also been a member of the SME community. So we're happy to also have you on board. So just before we start your presentation, our chief pilot is also on the bench now, Mr. Kizito. So, Mr. Kizito, you just have a minute if you want to say something. So we just dive into today's action. Mr. Kizito, it looks like there's something about your audio. You may need to check the setting. It's coming out as the boogeyman. Ah, come on. So check that. I'm not sure why that that's why I don't know why that's coming up at this time. So I think there's a voice setting. It's sounding like the boogeyman. Okay, okay, no worries then. I'll just take it up from there. Um, so um, Dr. Bello has just also gone off there for a little moment there. So I'll just go back
Yes, but
to
can you hear me?
what we
Can you
should be
hear me
looking.
now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. It's better.
Oh, that's technical issues. They always show up. But yeah, I was just saying thank you so much for starting this.
Yeah,
Of course, I think we're going to have a very interesting one for the SME bloggers this time. This is talking about ease of doing business, which is a very, very important thing. Is it, should we even call it ease of doing business or unease of doing business? What do you think it really should be in Nigeria? I would say it's more of unease of doing business in Nigeria. Maybe that's what we're going to be exploring today. How can we make it easier? Because basically that's what the SME.
yeah. Okay, some internet glitches that we're having today. So sorry guys for the broadcast. So we hope that we get better reception. So Dr. Bello, if you are ready, we are ready. I'm not sure if your um, um, internet is also up. Just let me know when you can hear me and you're ready to go. Um, so today, like we're looking to discuss the ease of doing business, like our pilot was saying, which we would be covering the struggles, internal operational excellence of how it can become your biggest competitive advantage. So, yeah, the SME plug, we are absolutely interested in ensuring that SMEs have ease of doing business, or like my chief pilot has said, the unease to make the uneasy
Of doing
easy
business.
of doing business. So while I'm waiting for our presenter to also come back, our guest speaker, I mean, I'll just also let you know that we are here every last Friday or Saturday of the month. So in case you're a first time subscriber, uh, you know what the internet issues can be like most time, but we are glad that you have joined us today. We are glad that you're watching us from wherever you are in Nigeria or anywhere in the world. Like I said, this is a special edition to me because we have a powerhouse in the building. So once we have him back on, then we will discuss. So, but while we're waiting for our guest speaker, if you can still, if your internet is better now, Mr. Kizito, you were saying something about the ease or the unease of doing business. So, if you can hear me, you want to, shed some light before we hear from our analyst tonight. I'm not sure. Okay, it's gone off there. Um, so, um, there are various areas we will be considering. So today we are hoping to see how we would help our audience access shortcuts. I help the audience to shortcuts to navigate sustainable focus in their business, to see what biggest mistakes they make as an SME and how, as a founder, they can avoid them. How the Nigerian business environment can feel complex. We talked about tax the last time in January. There's FX, infrastructure. How can they simplify it? And these are many more our guest speaker will be helping us to trash today. So, Mr. Bello, I see you are back. Dr. Bello, forgive me for that. We could just jump into it if you have the time now, and let's get into business. So you can also share your.
I now started having some network. As I having network issues, but I believe you can see my screen now. Please confirm if you can.
I can see you and I can hear you, but the slides are not up yet. So I will let you know when the slides are up.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, let me try again because it went
All right. So while they
away.
are doing that,
Actually.
like I said, I just want to engage our people. So if you are watching us on LinkedIn or on YouTube, please like, subscribe on Advite 360 platform. Okay, our slides are up now. Thank you. So as you can see on our slides, the ease of doing business in Nigeria, the
Please
challenges
kindly
of
confirm if
SME.
you can hear me as well.
Yes, I can hear you, and
Kindly
our
confirm you can
screen
hear
has
me.
gone off again.
Yeah.
But don't worry, just proceed so that we can save on
Ah.
time. All right? Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. That's like how the network. Yes, from my end, I can see that the screen is. So of course, I think just going straight
Yeah.
into it, we want to look at ease of doing business in Nigeria, the range of SMEs. We are looking at it from so for businesses, either a small business or a big business, the approach that we always adopt is to try to navigate, the the business environment in a way that still we want to survive as a business person. So of course today we'll look at it from a different angle. As I've and please kindly confirm if you can hear me still. So
I can hear you, sir. Just right
all
on.
right,
Thank
but
you.
I cannot see.
Oh, okay. I just
Interesting.
continue as long as you can hear me, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Because we can't see the slide, but just continue so
So,
that our audience benefit
so
from this insightful discussion.
let
Conversation, yeah.
Just continue, sir. We will do well. Just continue.
so we look at it from the SME landscape, just understanding the Nigeria. We look at the
Oh,
critical
there we go.
that SMEs are facing in Nigeria, and the work that they are doing, right? Maybe organization like PEPEC. We look at some of the tools. We look at some of the regular for businesses in Nigeria. So, uh, as the pilot said earlier, what is business? What is a business? What are we talking to say when it comes to issue of doing ease of doing business in across the globe? This is where Nigeria is ranked, and I think on that report, Nigeria was ranked about 121, able to obtain a license for you to be able to clear your goods, for you to be able to, your opportunity to have access to justice, access to an industrial court, access to a smuggling court, in a way that it relieves businesses of certain burdens that is expected to be by MDAs or by government. The legislative and the bureaucratic about the bureaucracy policy you might face, maybe when you need to of payment of your taxes, when you need to file your annual return, need to like just do a couple of things in Nigeria. Sense is to look at it as a business owner. If you need to tax, how easy get a certificate, how easy it is, and how over regulatory of you have a typical example of maybe some SMEs in Abuja, for instance. If you are an SME, you see the fragmentation of taxes, you see come for television license, for tenement rates, for they will say another one is for fumigation, they'll say another one is for adverts, signboards. Like I mean, so you are still going to pay taxes to NRS, you are still going to pay taxes, maybe if perhaps you are not in the FCT or in the state, you still have state taxes that you're expected to pay. And then you still have, overwhelming cost of electricity, etc. So these are the various regulations. And you also have some level of overlapping mandates and overlapping regulation within the country, in the sense that, for instance, you can look at organizations like Sun and NAFDAC. If you are in the pharmaceuticals or you are in food and beverage, you can realize that sometimes Sun is going to come and say, we are regulating what you produce, and so therefore you need to get some cap, you need to get this certificate, and then NAFDAC is a certain NAFDAC certificate. And then maybe you have FCCPC and another set of people coming again to regulate and perhaps to want to do the same thing. So you realize that you have an environment where different MDAs doing the same thing, overburdening the business. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, please. Just keep it going. I can hear you. It's better now.
So
Yes, please.
just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, great. Yeah, so the next component is, who are SMEs, right? We believe very strongly that in Nigeria, SMEs are like the backbone of our economy, right? They are the engine of poverty reduction. They are the engine of wealth. As you can see, in Nigeria, SMEs amount for 96% of the businesses. So you see most of the corporates and the big organizations we have in Nigeria today are just about 4%. So SMEs, micro businesses and small businesses, small and medium enterprises in Nigeria amount to 96% of businesses in Nigeria, and they create and generate between 84 and 86% of our employment. If you look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics and some other international labor organization statistics, and then of course contributing 48% to our GDP, which means that SME is actually truly the catalyst for growth in a country like Nigeria. But what are the critical challenges that they face that sort of like makes it uneasy, in the words of Mr. Kizito? Some of it is infrastructure deficit, right? It makes it like truly a problem because you don't have access to power. And beyond just access to power, what actually is the major problem in power area, in the power sector, is the reliability of the power. It's not about just the access to power, it's the reliability of the power, distribution or generation, as the case may be. So the reliability of those infrastructure, in the sense that, can you build your model around the availability of electricity in the country? Because most businesses are built on models, right? On assumptions, on certain premise that, okay, we are going to operate with this cost, with this amount, and this is how the cost is supposed to roll. So if you have already budgeted around PHCN or AEDC or different of the discos, it could keep your business or give certain setbacks to your business. Why? Because it might not be reliable. And you also have issues around road infrastructure. Even though the government maybe is making efforts from the state, local government, and federal government, but there's still a lot much more work that is needed to be done, right? So that means that you have infrastructure deficits, which affects business in a lot of ways, because there's no way you can predict today to say, I'm going to have 20 hours of light. And I'm not talking of maybe in Abuja, area, core northern, core southern areas, and other parts of it, you realize that you cannot necessarily decide or determine that this is how many amount of hours of light that I'm going to have this week, this month, and this is how I want to build my business model around it. So that infrastructure deficit makes it uneasy for businesses, in your words, Mr. Kizito, right? And then another thing is the access to finance. How easy it is. The interest rate is really, really astronomical, right, in Nigeria. In the sense that getting loans, and I think people like Sele who has moved to the financial sector, I would understand, what interest rate is saying today. You want to get any money in any bank today, even the quick lenders are even taking much more advantage because they even charge you monthly, right? Your interest rate is not going to come like annually and broken down. You get astronomical interest rates, and there's when the interest rates are very high, certainly there's no way business can thrive because that in itself, even though it's going to be passed down through the consumers, but then it can also make you uncompetitive compared to other countries where interest rate is single digits, for instance. So if maybe in China, in other advanced country, and even other African developing countries, like if you go to countries like Kenya, for instance, you realize that interest rate can be producing in Kenya, can bring his products to Nigeria, and will still be more competitive. Why? Because you have access to better finance than you. So that also makes it uneasy for businesses that want to scale, right? And regulatory bottlenecks, as I've mentioned earlier, issues around overlapping agencies, like multiple agencies doing almost similar things without actually having a way of streamlining their processes in a way that it relieves the business. So, and even in tax offices, sometimes some people that are in business will see when tax auditors come. I have been in an organization, where tax auditors will come to want to audit that business from different tax offices, claiming jurisdiction on different organization, different tax branch, trying to claim jurisdiction of a particular company, right? So you see somebody and say, we are in the medium tax office of Mabushi. Let's say the company is in Jabi, for instance. They say we are in the medium tax office Mabushi. They want to audit your office. After they do that audit, which is usually going to take 2 to 3 weeks, they will disrupt business activities and other. After like 2 months, another letter will come. They'll say we are now from the chairman's office. Another set of people will come. They'll say we are from the Gwagwalada office. And you see, this burden itself affects operational, flow for businesses, and as well, makes it truly uneasy for them. Multiple taxations. You have fragmented levies across government tiers. And a typical example of those fragmented levies is what you have obtainable with AMAC, with FCT, IRS, with the NRS. You see different taxes, different component of levies that sometimes even can be as ridiculous, even as quick as haulage. If you are going to move goods and services, even within Abuja, there's a chance you're going to be paying haulage on them. So, which makes it really, really, really difficult for businesses to predict even their cost of operation a lot of times. So, you see, business want to operate in a way that they can predict what happens today, what happens tomorrow, not necessarily with certainty, or with some level of probability of success. So these are some of the challenges that businesses face in Nigeria. We also have couple of, as I've mentioned, infrastructure, the deficits as the first one, which is around power supply, as erratic as it is. Transportation, which is in itself delays supply chain, can also increase logistic cost because goods and services that are coming from, let's say, Benue now. Somebody has loaded mango or yam from Benue to come and sell in Abuja or to go and sell in Lagos. So before it gets to Lagos, aside from the fact that the roads are bad, you must have met a lot of checkpoints of official and unofficial people trying to collect money. And that in itself affect the business, affect your profitability, and at the end of the day also influences the the final price that is passed through down to the consumers. Then I also mentioned digital infrastructure. Of course, there, even as much as we are trying as hard as possible in the city centers, in some different areas of the country, we realize that our internet, infrastructure, our digital infrastructure, or perhaps our broadband penetration is still, not as much as it should be, right? Which is certainly affecting our digital economy because, even as much as the government is trying to do so much, maybe if you are in Abuja, as you can see right now, you can see my brother, Mr. Kizito, going in and out. this could actually also be a business meeting, right? And if the digital network is not as
Absolutely.
good, how can you how can you scale e-commerce, right? How can you navigate, financial technology to be able to, like, do business if you don't have digital assets, and how they could also affect, businesses in today's world. Now, if you also look at, the access to affordable finance, as I mentioned, high interest rates, stringent collaterals, and as well even information gaps, because as it stands today, while we are looking at the problems from the government end, there are also certain problems that you might also see from the business side, in the sense that a lot of SMEs today has fragmented financial records. Perhaps maybe I might also be guilty of that because I also own a business myself. So it's usually not easy to put, the pressure or the burden of what you are seeing in the no light, you are using generator, you are buying fuel, you are here, you are there, and to be able to keep proper records in a way that it enables you understand what your business is really all about, like in terms of your financial architecture, your business architecture, in terms of problem that has affected business to even be able to have offers you see in the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture for small businesses. A lot of business cannot key into them because they do not even have records. They don't have adequate records. So part of the problem, some of them are, even maybe if you look at SWOT analysis, some of them are internal, like the ones that are your own strength, your own weakness, and some of them are now external. So while we are looking at access for finance, as a component of ease of doing business, we also believe that there are still components, that are related to the businesses. Then regulatory and bureaucratic bottlenecks, as I made mention of, multiple are doing work, two agencies, delayed approvals, publicly available information around services of government. There are a lot of business, a lot of MDAs today. You go there, aside from multiple agencies doing the same thing, you see, maybe you have Arcon, you have NBC, you have NAFDAC, all of these people regulating how you can advertise something on your water. Realize that you are already trying to meet up to like 4 or 5 agencies in the federal government and in the state government and in the local government just for advertising water. So you realize that you are paying a lot of money to different agencies for doing the same thing, right? Just for regulating the same, activity. So that in itself, that businesses that are coming into Nigeria has to look into, because most businesses are now deliberate about their choice of where they want to site their business, right? So some of the factors they look is how easy it is to pay tax here, how complicated is life for business from various MDAs that we are going to be dealing with. Another issue is delayed approvals. You see, delayed approvals is one of the key problem of bureaucracy in Nigeria. You can have a situation in some agencies today when they tell you that applications are not approved because the permanent secretary is on leave, or the permanent secretary is not around, or the director had died and then they are still trying to transition. So you see how the personal issues in ministries affect businesses, because personnel issues, whether somebody had transited, whether somebody had moved from one office to the other, does not actually have to affect a business who had applied for a certificate, because the certificate that a business has applied for that's supposed to take 7 days, if it takes more than 7 days, there's a chance that could affect their credit. I was telling somebody today that in the UK, when you agree with your landlord that I'm going to pay my rent on the 28th, you don't do it on the 29th, because your landlord's model is around that 28th. He wants to also pay his own mortgage maybe on the 28th. So if you miss payment of your deadline on the 28th, it means that you have made him miss his own mortgage, and then that also has an effect on the mortgage institution. Then, he asked me a question. He said, what if there's salary delay? I said, that is why you don't understand. You're already used to the constraint of delays in salary. I say governments of serious countries, businesses of serious countries, especially countries that are, that has a lot of credit-based, credit rating, credit scoring, does not delay salaries, because they know one day in delaying salaries can affect the entire ecosystem, one way or the other. So delayed approvals, you can see how heavy it is, but and perhaps how light it's been taken. And opacity, sometimes today if you want to apply for even driver's license, even your tax, even your maybe your vehicle license as a business, maybe application for collection of meter. Okay, let's talk about collection of meter in the AEDC now. As a business, if you set up a business today and you go to AEDC that you want to get a meter, even though you are going to pay, there's a very high chance there's no SLA around it. You do not know when you are going to get it. You do not know the process of how to get it. You do not know how much it's going to cost officially to get it, because you cannot find most of the information anywhere on the line. And maybe if you can find it for AEDC, maybe you cannot find it for EcoDC. Maybe you cannot find it for, Yola DC. Maybe you cannot find it, across board. So that means that people now needs to be meeting some agents, because that in itself gives rooms for racketeering. And any environment where racketeering, can survive, what that simply means that that environment can never be easy for business, right? Businesses will always be relying on second-hand information to carry out their business model, because businesses online, I was, if you go to maybe, and I'm using UK as an example, not because I've been there myself, but because of maybe a few research that we have done to say, okay, look, there's only one uk.gov, that you go and you can access all of your services, whether you want to pay taxes, you want to pay your electricity bills, you want to, anything you want to do, just one uk.gov. But here you have fragmented websites, fragmented information, some outdated information. Somebody will tell you, categorically, if you, and they will see on your website outdated. The magnitude of maybe an MDA telling you that the information on their website is outdated, right? Which means that they'll tell you that what you are charging now is different from what you have on the website. We are going to update it soon. So you can see how disconnected they are from, the general public. These are some of the problems you have, especially when it comes to regulatory issues. And then, which in itself improves or increase rather, compliance costs for businesses and actually affect their growth. Some of the remedies that people have actually also strategically believed that MDAs, I mean SMEs, can have: alternative financing, maybe from Bank of Industry, maybe access to use some sort of like credit scheme. I know some organizations and cooperatives that I am also a part of, that you can access certain loans with maybe like about 4% if you are a member, just to be able to do business, maybe small money, maybe like 600,000. There are societies and cooperatives that are built to support their members, which people are doing such environment for easy move into the cooperative scheming. People also try to do some some thrift scheming, in the sense that thrift, you can have access to capital without actually paying any interest, because it's thrift. So you have 10 people want to do 100,000 or 200,000. You're able to have access to 2 million in January, and you can pay the money all through December without actually having interest on it. If truly you are a true business person, that might be an alternative way to ensure business is done. Of course, infrastructure development, maybe government can make a lot of effort in developing infrastructure, in grid infrastructure, but SMEs, I think, will also go maybe deeper into some issues around the way forward for SMEs. Now, we also have organizations like Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council that has been established by the Nigerian government to reduce these regulatory and bureaucratic bottlenecks for businesses. The PEBEC Secretariat, sitting in the office of the Vice President, has tried as much as possible to rank. In fact, if you go online and go to pebec.gov.ng, you see a way whereby PEBEC are now started ranking MDAs based on how transparent they are, based on how collaborative they are within themselves, based on how much they are posting their activities online, how much of their SLAs are online, and a couple of other issues that I'll mention maybe later on. So if you look at it, institutions like PEBEC are there to ensure that legislative and bureaucratic bottlenecks are reduced for businesses, to ensure that there's ease of doing business in Nigeria. There are a couple of issues, I know we don't have so much time, under the PEBEC, pillar of Executive Order 1 and the Business Facilitation Act of 2022. issues around default approval. I can mention issues of default approval because default approval is key, and a lot of businesses does not even know that default approval exists, even though some of the MDAs are also not implementing it. As good as the laws are, default approval is saying something of this: if you are to apply for a document, right? If you have to apply for, let's say, your tax clearance, and the FIRS has promised on their website that your tax certificate is going to take 6 days. On the day of your application, they will give you an acknowledgement copy that this is going to take 6 days. And if it does not, if it after 6 days, if it is not approved, they are expected to message you that your application is still in progress and this is what is delaying it, and it will be ready at this date. If they do not respond to you after 7 days or 8 days, you as a citizen have the right to ask for default approval on that, which means that they either print for you a quasi certificate, or that acknowledgement copy can be used to do any activity that you need to do because that certificate is deemed approved. Even though the implementation is still what I think organizations like Quebec are still trying to do. There are still conversation around port operations to ensure that the dwell time in Nigeria, if you look at it, some of the people that are doing export business, that are doing import and export, a lot of SMEs today are importing from China, right? And I know our time is also fast spent. I'll try to run down. Some of our SMEs are bringing their goods from China. You realize that if you are bringing some products and you get to the port, if you are not careful, you can have your product spending 20, 30 days at the port and clearance is not in sight. That would increase your demurrage charges. That will increase, charges you pay at the port. That will eventually increase the cost of the product itself. So some of these are what Pebek is working around, and I think there's one executive order and instruction of the vice president that is ensuring that people are now doing joint inspection in a way that if NAFDAC, NAQS, SON, and all other agencies like custom needs to do inspection on any product coming into Nigeria, they come to the container all at once, do their inspection and leave to reduce that over over Of course, there are some tangible interventions of PEBEC. A typical example of that is the starting a business that ensure that CAC effectively digitize all their process. So CAC now, whether you're an agent, whether you are ICANN or ICSAN or a lawyer, MBA, whether you are not, you can now register your business yourself online, which makes it like, a typical intervention from PEBEC. Also, they are also trying to facilitate, some creation of the National Collateral Registry, which allows SMEs to use some of their movable assets as well as, equipment and vehicle as loan collaterals in the bank. So those are some of the interventions that PEBEC has done to ensure that people can also have, access to credit, right? And then another one is the report.gov.ng. Report.gov.ng, I think anyone who is interested as a business owner that has applications somewhere, or that people are now requesting that you pay certain bribes, or applications that has been delayed for every that are business facing, any MDA that is in 72 hours, you are going to get a feedback from PEBEC, and most likely you are going to get a feedback from that agency because this is domiciled in the office of the vice president, it's domiciled in the presidency. Any report that is coming for any MDA here goes directly to the presidency, and gov.ng. You can also reach out if you need. And of course, we believe that the easiest way to do that is you're able to submit on web and mobile app, and then I think the mobile app component, I'm not sure. The MDA, if you report through the report.gov.ng. And of course, there are a lot of laws that has been passed, like CAMA, like BFA. Of course, CAMA is the game changer for SMEs, which means that before now at least two members as a director, etc. But now the single member company, annual general meetings can now be virtual. There are also audit exemption for small businesses, and small businesses are now defined by CAMA, even though this a little contradict with what you have in the tax law, right? But of course, as contained in the Karma Act, the turnover threshold for small businesses is 120 million, and of course, with net assets, threshold of about 60 million. This matters because it exempts you from tax obligation. But as I said, we need to also look at this vis-a-vis what you now have in the tax law, which is looking at 50 million threshold, right? And of course, Business Facilitation Act, as I mentioned, default approval, anti-touting, and the single window or single joint inspection. And then, of course, as I made mention, the new financial tax law, the new Tax Act of Nigeria 2026, has also tried as much as possible to reduce, the burden of taxation on small businesses. And if you look at some of the advantage here, you realize that small businesses now pay 0% in terms of corporate income tax, capital gain is 0%, minimum tax, eliminated for people that are, earning less than 50. In fact, as a matter of fact, your VAT also, you are also not expected to even file or charge tax, provided that your earnings are less than 50%. And of course, this can boost your personal income, at least for your first 800,000, and as well your rent up to 500K. And most of the various, education tax, tertiary, IT levy, Naseni, trust fund, etc., has been scrapped now in the law. Are exempt from this particular tax. And of course, there's no tax on food items if you are into food and educational materials. And these are some of the thresholds, and as well some of the benefits for small businesses. I think I can also share this slide for anyone who are interested. What are the way forward for businesses? Quickly, some of the ways businesses can stabilize this uneasiness, as Mr. Kizito said, is that we can try to move to sustainable environment, in the sense that a lot of people are now using mini solar grids, etc., to ensure that they are going off the grid, and as well they can generate their light in maybe not entirely sustainable for large moving businesses, especially if you are in the large manufacturing. But as SMEs, you can at least migrate to solar gradually. You don't have to go there all at once. You can go there gradually and as well scale as the business grows. Shared workspace, and rather than renting very big especially in Abuja now, to rent an office space, we all know how much that costs. And if your office, if it's not necessarily a space where you need to buy and sell, or people need to come, there are now shared workspaces that helps people also reduce the burden of rent, and as well the burden of even electricity, because there you just pay for any hour. Any hour you are not in the office, you don't necessarily need to pay. Any day you don't go to the office, you don't necessarily need to pay. And as well, this in itself, people are also trying to manage to source certain material locally, even though this is hard. And maybe to an extent, you still have some level of stability in the exchange rate regime. Separation of entity for businesses, diligent bookkeeping, and as well proactive compliance. So diligent bookkeeping, because as small businesses, the obligation of actually even hiring a tax officer is off of you, right, as a small business. But you also need to file your returns, right? So in filing your returns, it means that you need to have diligent bookkeeping, and there are some applications that you can use that are maybe affordable or cheap, like QuickBooks, like Keeper, like Wave. You can learn some of them on YouTube that can help you guide how do you record your transactions, your expenses, your income and sales, etc. And also try as much as possible to be compliant and see your business as separate. People are buying Range Rover Sports and Mercedes Benz with business money without necessarily understanding their entity and as well their businesses. So these are some of the ways that we believe that businesses can navigate this weather of how uneasy it is. Social and e-commerce, I made mention of institutional networking like OutV 360 ecosystem, like the SME plug hangouts, and then maybe association of small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. These are associations that can plug you into information around access to credit, information around tax education. I can remember, I think this particular platform has provided tax education for SMEs also in the past. So joining an institution or association of this nature can also help you navigate the uneasiness that you might have in the Nigerian business environment today. And very keenly, in building your resilience, you have to build solar infrastructure as little as you can, so that you can have better alternative to fossil fuel, especially when you are not doing maybe heavy duty works. And as well, you can leverage your share workspaces, as I made mention, source your local, maybe local raw materials, even though that is also scarce sometimes, but at least let us try and work on this as a way of leveraging or as a way of navigating the Nigerian business environment, using digital tools like WhatsApp Business, Instagram, to see how can we try as much as possible to also reduce the cost of having plenty and big rents in our businesses. And as well, we can maximize the new tax act of 2026 to ensure that we are effectively navigating our very tough business environment. We know very sure maybe things are going to get better, but I believe from our own end, we will not allow our background to put our back on the ground, right? So as much as that, we will we'll utilize whatever we have. And I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker, to acquire, to perspire, to require, right? But I believe with some of these easy tips, we might be able to navigate the very tough, business environment in Nigeria. So thanks so much, Sele. Thanks so much, the SME Blog, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. In fact, I think as the event was going into its fullness, and I'm like, yes, this is it. This is it. So if you are coming back to watch this live, download it, save it, start it, because the unease for me is now ease of doing business, because like our guest speaker said, there are surmountable problems in the country that we may not be able to overcome because they are external, but we need to sort out our internal, because if our internal is sorted, then we may be able to benefit from the external. I'm also happy that our guest speaker also made reference to the SME ecosystem, guys, the SME plug of Outside 360 as an ecosystem to provide ease of doing business in Nigeria. So you've heard it from the guest speaker's mouth. If you are not following us, you should follow us on our socials, on LinkedIn, join our community on WhatsApp, and you see we've communicated about tax development. We've communicated about how to manage books, your books in the business. We've even communicated or shared in the community how you can access grants. So there's a lot to unpack in this community, the SME plug. So we are fast going out of time, and we don't like to cross our time. And I would say there are some questions in the message box that I believe that our presenter has attended to somewhat. But if we have our chief pilot audible, we just like him to chip a few words, and maybe let's just have a 5 minutes conversation on what our guest speaker Dr. Bello has said today. So Kizito, they've made reference to to you about 3 times today, like our co-pilot has said. So what do you have
Oh
to
my
say?
goodness. I was an absolutely a case study. I was a case study, a point in specific reference when it comes to when we're talking about the ease or unease of doing business and the struggle. In fact, right now,
The moment he said right now, like it looks like the internet is about to shut him up. So honestly, like we've said, it's a very interesting conversation. Just to continue with what our chief pilot was saying, that imagine this is a business meeting in the international community where you have to deliver a product or a presentation, and the internet keeps keeping you off. What is the infrastructure? What is power? Some people would have to get generators or solar to run their businesses, and all these challenges that SMEs face. Personally, I would say there are opportunities. As a community, we always try to say you can use your underpower to become a superpower. So as much as we are in this environment, we must do business to create value to our communities, and we must also, sell our products and services. So, and that is why we are bringing this to you. Personally, I would say I've learned one key instrument, which is about the process of reporting. A lot of people are faced with problems about how institutions like maybe Bank of Industry or CAC, or the tax collectors, FRS, or the tax holders in their locations um, may have affected their business. The PEBEC, run under the office of the Vice President of Nigeria, is open to support your report. So this is a way to go to report gov.ng and put your case there. And like our honorable guest speaker has said today, that is going straight to the office of the Vice President and his team to review your complaint. I would say personally, I also have learned something today, which is in respect to the default approval. I never knew something like that was in Nigeria, so it's a win. I think I have a question in that line, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
about effectiveness, because one thing is to report and the next thing is the action. So, Dr. Bello, if you have 2 minutes, I would not mind if you come back and tell us what is the percentage effectiveness of reportgov.ng, and so that at least we know that we are going back to smile, that there is some positivity and the end in sight.
Yeah, so the way the reportgov.ng works, right, is that it has connected to it in the back end all agencies, about 69 of them that are business facing, the NEPC, the NIPC, NUPRC, NMPDRA, NCDMB, all 69 of these business facing MDAs are, right there. So what it means is that if you lay a complaint, you are going to be selecting a particular MDA that you are dealing with. You complain directly about them. The moment you lay that complaint, it directly goes to PEBEC and also goes back to that particular MDA. And as you are making the report, the vice president has a login detail to that PEBEC, people in his office, right? Also in the office of the president, also in the office of the minister that is supervising that agency. So it becomes some sort of like issue of urgency. The sense of urgency to responding is higher, because now it means that people in the presidency are looking at how you respond to them. And at the end of the year, if you look at it, PEBEC also even does mystery shopping, right? By going to ask for certain services, making calls to the agency, sending emails to the agency, trying to test some of their services to see how effective they are, to see how many days it took, to see how many days they are expected to take, to see how many days you have published that it was going to take, and how many days did it eventually take. And then we report these gaps, and to be able to let people like still improve. But the most important thing is to, number one, move the needle, improve the status quo. So as it stands now, even the issue of default approval has not, we have very beautiful laws, but the thing that we are hoping and praying for, aggressively, is the implementation of those laws, right? So as much as we are looking towards implementation of the laws are there. And issue of default approval, the implications are varies, right? There are some new toolkits that have been developed by PEBEC to see how even the agencies, there's a 90-day accelerator program that PEBEC is doing now with all MDAs to ensure all the MDAs acceleratedly key into the various provision of the Business Facilitation Act, because issue of default approval is in Business Facilitation Act, issue of transparency is in the Business Facilitation Act, issue of one government directive is in the Business Facilitation Act. When they say one government directive, it means if, for instance, you need to make an application to NAFDAC, right, and you require within the process of that application another certificate from NUPRC, you don't need to now start going to NUPRC office to go and apply, because it's one government. Within that same application, there should be a provision for you to click a link to apply and link it to your application in a way that when it is approved, you don't need to now say, I'm waiting, or these people are the ones delaying me. When I bring the certificate, they'll say, no, now it's in your hand. It makes it a little irresponsible, but it is working. The 72-hour timeline for PEBEC is still there. It is approved by the Federal Executive Council. So very keenly, I believe that, the the Pebec office is doing much more to ensure that this is a reality for businesses, and businesses are also ranked yearly based on their performance with the law. So a lot of businesses, MDAs are ranked yearly. So if you go to Pebec website now, pebec.gov.ng/reports, you'll see some of the reports there. Even the ease of doing business ranking for states is also there to see which subnational government in Nigeria is doing well in area of access to finance, in area of access to digital connectivity, in areas of access to infrastructure, in area of law enforcement, in area of small claims court, in areas of industrial court, etc. So the essence of doing that is to, because most businesses, most foreign direct investments, if they are coming into Nigeria, they don't come to Abuja, right? Some of them will go to Sokoto, Kaduna, Lagos. So whatever laws that you are making as a federal government, if they are not strengthened down the line in the subnational government, it might actually be counterproductive for businesses that are outside Abuja, maybe that are in Kaduna or in Kano or in Oyo or in Osun or in Edo or in Enugu or Ebonyi and Co. So these are some of the ways that Pebec is trying to improve the business environment in Nigeria.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. You've done exceedingly well. So we have exceeded our time today. It's 8:01. I want to thank you, especially Dr. Bello Adewale, for honoring our invitation with the out by 360 ecosystem. Like you said, the SME plug. It's a never-ending conversation. So let's try and continue this conversation. We may continue on maybe some months in the future, just to put more light on this sort of conversation. So thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Bello, for taking out time to honor this invitation. And hopefully we see you guys again at the SME Plug Hangouts in March. Thank you and have a good night. Okay? Bye from here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.